The clock on Jake's desk showed 11:47 p.m. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked around his small apartment. Empty pizza boxes sat on the kitchen counter. Clothes were scattered everywhere. 3 months ago, his life had been completely different. 3 months ago, he had a house, a wife, and what he thought was a perfect marriage. Now he lived alone in this tiny place across town. The divorce papers were finally signed last week. At 34 years old, Jake felt like his whole world had crashed down around him. Every night was the same. Working late on his laptop, trying to keep his mind busy so he wouldn't think about how lonely he felt. He was typing an email when he heard a soft sound. Someone was at his door. Jake stopped typing and listened carefully. He wasn't expecting anyone. His friends rarely visited this late, and his family lived in another state. The door handle turned slowly. Jake's heart started beating faster. Did he forget to lock it again? He'd been so scattered lately, forgetting simple things like that. The door opened just a crack at first. Then it opened wider. A woman stepped inside and quickly closed it behind her. Jake couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was Lily, his ex-wife's younger sister. Jake hadn't seen Lily since everything fell apart with his marriage. She was 28, always the quieter one in the family. While his ex-wife was loud and dramatic, Lily had always been thoughtful and kind. During family gatherings, she was usually the one listening to others instead of talking about herself. "Lily," Jake said, standing up from his desk chair. "What are you doing here? How did you even know where I live?" But Lily didn't answer. She stood by the door, not moving. Jake could see something was very wrong. Her usually bright eyes looked empty and tired. Her dark hair was messy, like she had been running her hands through it. She was wearing a long winter coat, even though it wasn't that cold outside. Jake took a step toward her. "Are you okay? What happened?" Lily looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that completely shocked Jake. She raised her hand, telling him to stop talking. Without saying a word, she started taking off her coat. Jake felt confused and worried. "Lily, what are you doing? Talk to me. Did something happen with your family?" But she still didn't speak. She folded her coat carefully and placed it on the small table by the door. Then she started taking off her sweater. Her hands were shaking as she pulled it over her head. Jake turned away quickly. "Lily, stop. You don't need to do this. Whatever happened, we can talk about it. Let me get you some coffee or something." When he looked back, Lily was still removing her clothes. But the way she was doing it wasn't what Jake expected. She wasn't trying to be attractive or seductive. Instead, she looked like someone who was in deep pain. Like someone who had been carrying a heavy weight for too long and finally needed to put it down. Her movements were slow and deliberate. Each piece of clothing she removed seemed to take away some invisible burden she had been carrying. Jake could see tears starting to form in her eyes. "Please," she whispered. It was the first word she had spoken since entering his apartment. Her voice was soft and broken. "Don't make me explain everything right now. I can't find the words yet." Jake felt his heart break a little. He recognized that feeling. For months after his divorce, he couldn't explain to people how much pain he was in. Words seemed too small to describe the emptiness inside him. He watched as Lily continued, her hands still trembling. Jake realized this wasn't about attraction or romance. This was about someone who was desperately hurting and needed help. Someone who felt so broken that normal ways of asking for comfort didn't seem enough. Jake had spent so many nights alone in this apartment, wishing someone would understand, his pain without him having to explain it. Wishing someone would just hold him and tell him everything would be okay. Maybe Lily was feeling the same way. When she was completely undressed, Lily stood there looking vulnerable and scared. She wasn't trying to be impressive or beautiful. She was just a person who had been hurt so deeply that she needed someone to see her pain without any barriers or pretenses. Jake could see goosebumps on her skin. The apartment was a bit cold and she was shivering slightly. But more than that, she looked like she was shivering from emotional pain. "Lily," Jake said gently, "let me get you a blanket or a robe. You're cold." She shook her head. "No. Please, I need you to see me. Really see me. I feel like I've been invisible for so long." Jake understood what she meant. After his divorce, he had felt invisible too. Like he was walking through life, but nobody really noticed he was there. People would ask how he was doing, but they didn't really want to hear the true answer. Lily took a small step toward him, then another. Her eyes never left his face. When she reached him, she slowly lifted her arms and wrapped them around him, pulling him close. Jake felt her skin against his clothes. She was warm despite her shivering. He could feel her heart beating fast against his chest. This wasn't about physical desire. This was about two people who had been hurt by life, finding each other in a moment of complete honesty. He wrapped his arms around her carefully like he was holding something precious and fragile. Jake held Lily gently, feeling her trembling against him. Her skin was cold from the night air, but he could feel warmth slowly returning to her body. She pressed her face against his shoulder, and he could feel her breathing starting to slow, down from the rapid, panicked breaths she had been taking. "You're safe here," Jake whispered softly. "Whatever happened, you're safe now." Lily didn't respond with words, but Jake felt her grip on him tighten slightly. It was like she was holding on to him to keep from drowning. Jake understood that feeling, completely. There had been so many nights when he wished he had someone to hold on to during his darkest moments. Jake looked around his small apartment. He grabbed a soft throw blanket from his couch and carefully wrapped it around Lily's shoulders. She didn't pull away or refuse his help this time. Instead, she seemed grateful for the warmth and comfort. "Let's sit down," Jake suggested gently, guiding her toward his small couch. "You don't have to explain anything right now, just breathe." They sat together on the couch, Lily still wrapped in the blanket. Jake kept one arm around her shoulders, offering comfort without asking for anything in return. He had learned during his own difficult times that sometimes the best thing someone can do is just be present. Lily's breathing gradually became more regular. Jake could feel the tension in her body slowly starting to release. After about 10 minutes of silence, she finally spoke. "I drove around for 3 hours tonight," she said quietly. "I had nowhere else to go." Jake didn't push her to say more. He simply nodded, showing her that he was listening. During his divorce, he had also spent many nights driving aimlessly around the city, trying to escape his thoughts and feelings. "I kept thinking about all the people I could call," Lily continued. "But everyone would want to know details. They'd want to fix everything or give me advice. I just needed someone who would understand without me having to explain everything." Jake felt a deep connection to her words. After his marriage ended, well-meaning friends and family members had constantly offered solutions and advice. But sometimes a person doesn't need solutions. Sometimes they just need someone to sit with them, in their pain. "Why did you come here?" Jake asked gently. "We haven't talked since everything fell apart with you and my sister," Lily finished. "I know it's weird, but I remembered how you looked at family gatherings after the divorce was finalized. You had this expression that I recognized because I see it in the mirror every day." Jake was surprised by her honesty. He had tried to hide his pain during family events, putting on a brave face and pretending everything was fine. But apparently, Lily had seen through his act. "What expression?" Jake asked. "Like you were lost," Lily said softly. "Like you were trying to figure out how to be a person again after everything you thought you knew about yourself turned out to be wrong." Jake felt tears forming in his eyes. That was exactly how he had been feeling. Like he was learning how to exist all over, again. Like the person he thought he was had disappeared and he didn't know who was supposed to take that person's place. "I've been feeling that way for months now," Jake admitted. "Like I'm pretending to be okay, but I don't actually remember how to be okay." Lily nodded. "That's exactly it. And tonight I realized I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't put on clothes and makeup and smile and act like everything was normal. I needed someone to see me without all the pretending." Jake understood now why she had removed her clothing. It wasn't about being physical or romantic. It was about removing all the layers of protection and pretense that people use to hide their true selves. She had stripped away everything that might hide her real emotions. I'm glad you came here, Jake said honestly. I've been so lonely. Not just because I'm single now, but because I feel like nobody really sees me anymore. Everyone just sees the divorced guy who needs to get back out there and move on. But you're not ready to move on yet, Lily said. It wasn't a question. She could see the truth in his eyes. No, I'm not, Jake admitted. I'm still trying to understand what went wrong. I'm still trying to figure out who I am without being married. Some days I feel like I'm making progress, and other days I feel like I'm right back where I started. Lily shifted on the couch so she could look at him directly. Can I tell you something? You're the first person who hasn't tried to rush me through my feelings. Everyone else acts like sadness has an expiration date. Jake smiled sadly. People get uncomfortable when others are in pain for too long. They want to fix it so they don't have to watch it anymore. But you're not trying to fix me, Lily observed. Because I know you can't be fixed like a broken machine, Jake said. Healing from heartbreak isn't something that happens on other people's timeline. It happens when it happens. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Jake noticed that Lily had stopped shivering completely. The blanket was keeping her warm, but more than that, she seemed to be relaxing for the first time since she had arrived. Thank you, she whispered. For not making this weird or complicated, for just letting me be broken without trying to put me back together right away. Jake squeezed her hand gently. Thank you for trusting me with your pain. It means more than you know. As the night grew deeper, Jake and Lily remained on the couch together. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing by outside. Jake had turned off the harsh overhead light, leaving only the warm glow of a small table lamp. Lily had pulled the blanket more tightly around herself, but she stayed close to Jake's side. There was something comforting about his presence that she hadn't expected. She had come to his apartment on impulse, not really knowing what she was looking for. But now she realized she had found exactly what she needed. Can I ask you something? Lily said softly. Of course, Jake replied. How do you get through the really bad days? The ones where you wake up and remember all over again that your life isn't what you thought it would be? Jake thought about her question carefully. It was something he had been struggling with for months. Some days were better than others, but the bad days could still hit him like a truck. Honestly, Jake said, some days I don't get through them very well. Some days I order pizza for breakfast and watch terrible movies all day. Some days I call in sick to work because I can't imagine having to pretend to be normal around other people. Lily nodded. She had been having those exact same days lately. But I've learned that those days don't last forever, Jake continued, even when it feels like they will. And I've learned that it's okay to have those days. Fighting against them just makes everything worse. I keep thinking I should be over it by now, Lily admitted. It's been 2 months since everything ended. With my boyfriend, people keep telling me that 2 months is plenty of time to move on. 2 months is nothing, Jake said firmly. I'm 8 months past my divorce being final and I'm still figuring things out. There's no rule book for how long healing is supposed to take. Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had been putting so much pressure on herself to feel better faster. Hearing Jake say that it was okay to still be struggling made her feel less broken. What was the hardest part for you? Lily asked. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. The hardest part was realizing that the person I thought I was married to never really existed. I had built this whole life around someone who turned out to be completely different than who I thought they were. It made me question everything I thought I knew about people and relationships. Lily understood that feeling completely. Yes, that's exactly what happened to me. I thought I knew him so well. I thought we wanted the same things. But when things got serious, he became this completely different person. Like he had been wearing a mask for 3 years and finally took it off. It makes you feel stupid, doesn't it? Jake said. Like you should have seen the signs earlier. So stupid, Lily agreed. I keep replaying everything in my mind, looking for clues I missed. But the truth is, he was good at hiding who he really was. And I was good at seeing what I wanted to see instead of what was actually there. They sat with that realization for a while. Both of them had been blaming themselves for not seeing the truth sooner, but talking about it together made them realize that they had been victims of deception, not failures of judgment. "You know what's strange?" Lily said. "I haven't been able to talk about this with anyone else. Everyone either wants to bash him and tell me how terrible he was, or they want to find the silver lining and tell me everything happens for a reason. Both of those responses are awful," Jake agreed. "Sometimes terrible things happen and there's no reason for it. And sometimes the person who hurt you isn't completely evil. They're just not the right person for you, and they handled things badly." "Exactly," Lily said. "It's more complicated than people want it to be." Jake looked at Lily and saw something he hadn't noticed before. Despite her pain, there was strength in her eyes. She wasn't just surviving her heartbreak, she was learning from it. She was becoming someone deeper and more understanding because of what she had been through. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" Jake asked. Lily nodded. "Sometimes I'm grateful for the divorce," Jake said quietly. "Not because I wanted it to happen, but because it showed me who I really am when everything falls apart. It showed me that I'm stronger than I thought I was. And it showed me what I actually need in a relationship, not just what I thought I wanted." Lily smiled for the first time since she had arrived. "I think I understand what you mean. This whole experience has been horrible, but it's also been honest. For the first time in years, I know exactly who I am and what I want. No pretending. No trying to be what someone else needs me to be." "That's exactly it," Jake said. "It's like we had to lose everything to find ourselves." As they talked deeper into the night, both Jake and Lily began to realize something important. They had come together in their brokenness, but they were discovering that they weren't as broken as they had thought. They were just people who had been through difficult experiences and were learning how to rebuild their lives. The apartment felt warmer now, not just because of the blanket and lamp, but because it was filled with honest conversation and genuine understanding. Neither of them felt alone anymore. The clock on Jake's wall showed 2:30 a.m., but neither Jake nor Lily felt tired. They had been talking for hours, sharing stories and feelings they had kept buried inside for months. The conversation flowed naturally between them, like water finding its way downhill. Lily had wrapped Jake's old college sweatshirt around herself over the blanket. It was soft and worn, with faded letters across the front. She felt more comfortable now than she had in weeks. There was something about being in this small, simple apartment that made her feel safe. "I need to tell you the whole story," Lily said suddenly. "About why I really came here tonight." Jake nodded, settling back into the couch. "Only if you want to. No pressure." Lily took a deep breath. "This morning I woke up excited. It was supposed to be a special day. Tom and I had been planning to look at apartments together. We've been dating for 3 years, and I thought we were finally ready to take the next step." Jake could hear the pain in her voice as she continued. "I got dressed up, did my hair, even bought new shoes for the occasion. I was so happy, Jake. I kept thinking about how we'd decorate the place, where we'd put our furniture, what it would feel like to have our own home together." She paused, pulling the sweatshirt tighter around herself. "But when I got to his place, he wasn't ready. He was still in his pajamas, hadn't even showered. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me all dressed up. That's when I knew something was wrong." Jake wanted to say something supportive, but he could tell Lily needed to get this story out. Sometimes the only way to heal from something is to speak it out loud. "He sat me down on his couch," Lily continued. "The same couch where we'd watched movies and talked about our future together. And he told me he had been thinking, and he realized he wasn't ready for commitment. Not just moving in together, but any real commitment." "After 3 years?" Jake asked quietly. "After 3 years," Lily confirmed. "He said he needed space to figure out who he was and what he wanted from life. He said he cared about me, but he felt trapped by the idea of a serious relationship." Jake felt angry on Lily's behalf. He knew what it felt like to have someone you love decide they don't want the life you've built together. "The worst part," Lily said, "was that he had clearly been thinking about this for weeks, maybe months, but he never talked to me about it. He just made this huge decision about our relationship without including me in the conversation. That's what my ex-wife did too, Jake said. She had already decided she wanted out, but she let me keep planning our future and thinking everything was fine. It makes you feel like such a fool. Exactly, Lily said. I kept asking him when he started feeling this way, and he admitted it had been going on for at least 2 months. 2 months of me thinking we were happy while he was secretly planning his escape. Jake shook his head. That's not fair to you. If he was having doubts, he should have talked to you about it. Maybe you could have worked through it together. That's what I said, Lily replied. But he said he didn't want to hurt me with his doubts. So instead, he waited until he was completely sure he wanted out, and then he hurt me 100 times worse. They sat in silence for a moment, both thinking about how differently things might have gone if their partners had been honest about their feelings earlier. So what did you do after he told you? Jake asked. I sat there for about 10 minutes, trying to process what he was saying. Then I asked him if there was anything I could do, anything we could try to fix this. He said no. His mind was made up. Lily's voice got quieter. So I left. I didn't cry or argue or beg. I just stood up, said okay, and walked out. I think that surprised him. He probably expected me to fight for the relationship. Why didn't you? Jake asked, not judgmentally, just curiously. Because what's the point of fighting for someone who doesn't want to be with you? Lily said. I have too much self-respect to beg someone to love me. Jake felt a deep admiration for Lily's strength. When his marriage ended, he had spent weeks trying to convince his ex-wife to give their relationship another chance. Looking back, he realized it had only made him feel worse about himself. That's incredibly mature of you, Jake said. I didn't feel mature, Lily admitted. I felt devastated. But I also felt clear, if that makes sense, like suddenly I could see our relationship for what it really was instead of what I wanted it to be. What do you mean? I mean, if he could make a decision that big without talking to me about it, then we were never really partners anyway. We were just two people who were dating and happened to live in the same city. Jake nodded. I had a similar realization about my marriage. My ex-wife and I were living like roommates who occasionally went to dinner together. We weren't building a life together. We were just existing in the same space. So, after I left his apartment, Lily continued, I got in my car and started driving. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to move, to go somewhere, anywhere. Where did you go first? Jake asked. Nowhere special. I drove through downtown, then out to the suburbs, then back toward the city. I kept thinking about calling my mom or my best friend, but I knew they'd want to come over and take care of me. They'd want to make me soup and let me cry on their shoulders. That sounds nice, actually, Jake said. It does, Lily agreed. But it also felt like putting a bandage on something that needed to heal from the inside. I needed to sit with my feelings for a while before I let other people try to fix them. Is that when you decided to come here? Not exactly. I ended up at that 24-hour diner on 5th Street. You know, the one with the terrible coffee but the really good pie? Jake smiled. I know the one. I've spent a few late nights there myself. I sat in a booth for 2 hours drinking bad coffee and thinking about my life. And I realized that the person I missed most wasn't Tom. It was the person I used to be before I started changing myself to fit into his life. Jake understood that feeling completely. What kind of changes did you make? Small things, mostly. I stopped reading the books I loved because he thought they were boring. I started watching his favorite TV shows even though I didn't really enjoy them. I even changed the way I dressed because he made comments about certain clothes I wore. That's not small, Jake said firmly. That's you disappearing piece by piece. You're right, Lily said, and sitting in that diner I realized I wanted to find that person again. The person who read poetry and wore bright colors and had opinions about things. She's still there, Jake said softly. She's just been hiding for a while. Lily smiled, and Jake could see a spark of her true self shining through the pain. That's when I thought of you. The first light of dawn was starting to creep through Jake's bedroom window. Neither Jake nor Lily had slept, but they didn't feel tired. Instead, they felt more awake and clear-minded than they had in months. They had moved from the couch to sit on Jake's small balcony, watching the city slowly wake up around them. Lily was still wearing Jake's college sweatshirt, which hung loose on her smaller frame. She had wrapped the blanket around her legs and was holding a cup of coffee that Jake had made when they decided to watch the sunrise together. The morning air was cool and fresh, a welcome change from the stuffiness of staying indoors. "I can't remember the last time I stayed up all night just talking to someone," Lily said, watching a few early commuters walking down the street below. "Me neither," Jake replied. "Usually when I can't sleep, I just lie in bed worrying about things I can't change." "This was better," Lily said simply. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. The conversation they'd shared through the night had changed something between them. Not romantic love, but something deeper and more honest. They had seen each other at their most vulnerable and offered comfort without judgment. "Jake," Lily said eventually, "I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest." "Okay," Jake said, turning to look at her. "Do you think I'm crazy for coming here last night? For showing up at your door and, well, for everything that happened?" Jake considered her question carefully. "Do you want the polite answer or the real answer?" "The real answer. Always the real answer. The real answer is that what you did took incredible courage. Most people spend their whole lives hiding their pain behind masks and pretending everything is fine. You decided to be completely honest about how much you were hurting, even if it meant being vulnerable with someone you barely know." Lily felt tears forming in her eyes, but they were different from the tears she had cried earlier. These were tears of relief. "I was so scared," she admitted. "I thought you might think I was having some kind of breakdown." "Maybe you were," Jake said gently. "But sometimes breaking down is the first step toward building yourself back up the right way." Lily nodded, understanding what he meant. "I feel different now. Not healed completely, but different. Like I remember who I am again." "Good," Jake said, "because the person I've been talking to all night is pretty amazing." Lily blushed slightly. "You too, you're nothing like I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know, someone bitter maybe, someone angry about the divorce. But you're not bitter at all. You're just real." Jake laughed softly. "I was bitter for a while, really bitter. But it was exhausting. Being angry all the time takes a lot of energy, and I didn't have energy to spare." "When did that change?" "Gradually, and talking to you tonight has helped more than months of trying to figure things out on my own." They watched as more people began to appear on the streets. Office workers heading to early meetings, joggers starting their morning runs, a delivery truck making its rounds. The world was continuing as it always did, but both Jake and Lily felt like they were seeing it with new eyes. "I should probably go soon," Lily said, though she didn't sound like she wanted to. "You don't have to," Jake said, "but I understand if you want to." "It's not that I want to leave," Lily explained. "It's just that I need some time to think about everything we've talked about. I need to figure out what comes next." Jake nodded. "That makes sense. This has been a lot to process. Will you think I'm weird if I ask to see you again sometime? Not for this." She gestured to the situation they were in. "But just as friends who understand each other?" "I would really like that," Jake said honestly. "I haven't had a real friend in a long time. Someone who actually knows who I am instead of who I'm supposed to be." "Good," Lily said, smiling, "because I think we could help each other figure out this whole rebuilding your life thing." "I think you're right." Lily stood up and stretched, then began gathering the blanket around herself. "Can I borrow this sweatshirt? I'll bring it. Back next time." "Keep it," Jake said. "It looks better on you anyway." Lily smiled and gave Jake a long hug. It was different from the desperate embrace they had shared when she first arrived. This hug was warm and grateful, and full of hope for the future. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for seeing me, for listening to me, for not trying to fix me." "Thank you too," Jake replied, "for trusting me with your story, for showing me that it's okay to be broken sometimes." As Lily gathered her clothes and prepared to leave, Both of them knew that something important had happened between them. They had found each other at exactly the right moment, when both of them needed to remember that they weren't alone in the world. Jake walked Lily to the door and watched as she got into her car. She waved at him through the window, looking more peaceful than she had when she arrived. As she drove away, Jake realized that for the first time in months he was looking forward to tomorrow.